Sup, nerds? I'm Aaron.
I'm Wes.
I'm Tom.
We're at Everboard Gaming, and today we're taking a look at Expancity by Breaking Games. Expancity is a tile-laying city-building game where you'll be laying tiles, collecting your building materials, and then building them. Along the way, you'll be collecting different objective cards that will help you figure out what you want to do. And there's also 3 objectives on the board at the beginning of the game that everybody can kind of compete for an extra 12 victory points in whatever that area is. So if you can't tell, it's a really fun to play with just the pieces. Tom has been fascinated by it.
Well, so these pieces, they're really nice. They're big and chunky, but also the way they don't snap in, but the way they suction together, you can almost kind of pick them up. Like, okay, so I guess 2 is probably the limit, but they hold pretty well. They have like a good viscosity. That's how thick something is.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, no.
Whoa,
cohesion. Cohesion.
It's a low coefficient of friction.
I'm just better at everything than you are. They actually, at Gen Con in 2018, we interviewed the designer of this game, and he actually was saying that making these pieces have that nice, satisfying, like, snap together, but still be easy to pull apart, was actually like a big thing that their design team worked on to make this game so awesome.
Hang on.
Can he do it?
No. You suck!
So the game is really fairly straightforward. On your turn, you're going to be placing one tile onto the board. It's either going to be a residential or a commercial building site, which is the green and the blue, or there's some modifier tiles, which are like soccer stadiums and parks and bars and churches, and they'll give bonuses to certain ones, or they could give like a negative effect, but the negatives are never as powerful as the positive. It's usually like +1, +2, or -1 and +1. Like it's not a huge deal when there's the minus next to it.
And now during your turn, you get to pick. You get 3 building actions, and there's either collect materials or build on the board. So it's not, you don't build every turn. It's, you could take one turn and just, I'm going to collect 3 of these things, and the next turn I'm going to put all 3 of them on the board, or any combination of those 2 things, as long as you only do 3.
Mm-hmm. Now, as you can tell what we're talking about, this game is really simple. Well, it's probably not the simplest. I wouldn't say it's, baby's first city building game. It's not.
However, I can attest, babies do love these little pieces.
Babies do love those. But it's definitely not a deep game. It's definitely not, it's a gamer's game, but it's not like, ooh, wow, there's so much depth. And like, ooh, but if I do this, I get to... It's... The word elegant kind of comes to mind, where it's like simple
and clean.
And it works. There's not a lot of fiddliness, but it's also... So the one problem probably my biggest complaint was when we were playing, we were slowly building and we had some goals that we had to do. There was the main goals we were focusing on, trying to score stuff. The contract cards, so we were getting them a little bit at first, but the last couple of rounds, our whole goal was just to draw those.
And you draw them every time you cap a building.
Right. So we were just like, put one, cap it type of thing, to where we could just be like, and so I'm going to draw these, and this one's already done. So I'm just going to top deck 6 points or 9 points or whatever it is. And in a game with a lot of strategy, for a lot of people, they could just be like, oh, so you just, like, it's not, you weren't planning for that per se. Like, none of us, when in our first game, none of us knew any of these cards, really. So you're not really going for it. You just kind of like, let's see, have one by the... Oh, it just so happens. I mean, There's so much stuff going on there that eventually you're going to get some of them. Mm-hmm. So that almost brings it down to like a strategic beer and pretzels game, kind of, because you have to be okay with that type of stuff. Yeah. Just swinging up, that happened.
Yeah, because in that game we were talking about, the last round, my secret goal was cap 3 buildings in one turn. So I was able to cap 3 buildings in one turn, draw 3 cards, score every single one of them by just the static board state, and it swung me like 45 points.
Yeah, well, because you're drawing 6 cards 2 at a time, and you select from those 2 cards, and usually there's one that you, at that point in the game, there's something you've completed for the most part. I mean, unless you get 2 really bad cards, like.
And I have played games that fix that by saying, like, you have to have completed it on that turn, or you have to complete it, like you have to have the card in hand when it's completed, so you can't like, oh, it's already there, score. Which, I haven't playtested enough to tell you whether that would work or not.
And the way it's designed right now, no. I mean, they could have probably done that, but the fact that you don't start out with any contracts, you have to
That's
complete
fair.
your first building, prove the city that you're good, and then you get a contract, and like, okay, this is what you're doing now. You know, towards the end, it's like, it does kind of, you know, can spike either way. That you're like, oh yeah, I got a 15.1, but I just happened to build 4 buildings completely surrounding this one other tile, so now I can build this.
But again, I think that was kind of, they had that in mind almost.
Mm-hmm.
It was designed not to be super hyper strategic. It was just, you know, kind of like, I got that.
They
I
put
got
that in there to help it be lighter and
Yeah.
less like, oh, this happened.
But after your first playthrough and you realize those are in there, you can combat things like that. Like the fact that there was one where he just had to have 4 green buildings touching, just 4
In a square.
square
A 2x2 of green buildings.
of green, and they didn't have to have buildings on them completed or anything. It just had to be 4 tiles in a square. And he had, like, in the last couple rounds, you get to a point where you can't really build any more buildings, so you just start throwing your tiles down. If we would have noticed that he was putting, you know, he had 3, I had a chance. I could have just thrown any other tile in there and screwed that up and not let him score those big points.
But you don't know I had that card. Because I top decked and scored that, you could have also top decked and scored that.
Could have, but just to be like, you know, just to be that guy, you could block things like that once you know kind of the deeper strategy within the game. I mean, it's not like deep, but like once you know the cards, you're like, okay, well, I know that this is something somebody could be going for. Just like when you play Magic over and over, you like know what his strategy could be. I'm not completely comparing this to Magic, but I'm just saying, like, if you know what people could be going for, oh, he's going for 3 in a row, I'm going to block that.
Right.
The other game that this reminded me of well is playing it, not all the way it looks, but because of the tiles that are modifiers to other ones, it kind of reminded me of like Between Two Cities almost, where you have like some tiles you put out that if they're next to this, they score this way, or next to this, they score that way. And not that I want it to be that game, but I did want those to have a little bit more depth to them, other than just greens are +1, blues are -1, or greens and blues are both +2. Like,
I could see an expansion coming out with new modifier tiles and really like upping the strategy in this game. Or like, you know, the 2 blue ones on this side will go plus, you know, like having more, or even like at the diagonals giving modifiers. Like,
yeah.
you could definitely, there's design space to work around there.
I think visually it reminds me a lot of Manhattan.
Yeah.
Just because you're building buildings up 3-dimensionally, but this is very different because you each have your own buildings and you're not like competing for who controls the highest.
Yeah, they really aren't.
They're not the same, but they look the same.
So if you're looking for a really light tile laying 3D city building game, this is a great one for it. Again, it's light. It looks like a light game though. I think it fits the aesthetics of it. That like, look, this is a game you can very easily play with kids or play with adults if you're just hanging out having a good time. And if that's what you're looking for, we'll have a purchase link in the description box down below.
And hey, while you're down there, don't forget to subscribe to our channel so you'll never be bored.
So are you gonna not talk? You're just gonna play over there the whole time?
Yeah, it's
That's the plan.
Because if there, you could just go lay down for a minute.
That's true.